All right, my least favorite tune-up job of any of these old school cars. The 72 New Yorker here. I'm putting new spark plugs, wires, cap rotor, and everything. I think these are the original wires because they're date coded of March 1971, Chrysler Corporation. So minimally, they're at least 25 years old because Daimler Chrysler, I think, came into being in 1998. Pretty sure these are original. This is a Mopar cap on here too. But in any event, you can see this is a blind job. And it's not easy because this exhaust manifold is in the way, so you can't see very well. Then the suspension components are in the way, and the exhaust and the heat riser. This is the least fun of all of the old school motors to do a tune-up on. I actually got all four of these from the bottom. And you can see the old plugs, they look pretty good. It's running a little bit rich, so I have to adjust the carburetor a little bit. They're just old AC plugs. And I run ACs in my Chrysler products. I just find they work well. Standard copper plugs. These are obviously old. I mean, these plugs are probably 30 years old. I don't think AC's used that logo for at least 30 years. So, just basic maintenance. It ran pretty well, but I thought I would do this. So, can't really, again, get these that easily from the top. You can, but it's hard to see. So, I go under here, and then you can see, you know, the plug here. They become a bit more accessible. Still not a fun job. It's kind of hard because you got little things that are in your way. I wouldn't call it hard by modern day standards, maybe hard for the time though. It's annoying. All the other GM and Ford tune-ups are pretty easy compared to this. And the Chrysler 318s are easy compared to this. But here, look at this. Look at this frame member. This is a unibody car. And this is just a good, clean, old car. There's the torsion bars that provide your suspension. You can see they go into a socket up here that as the control arm moves, they twist. That's what provides your resistance. But wow, is this ever, you know, for a unibody car in particular, what a beefy frame here. It terminates, see if I can get it. It terminates back here. That's the end of it. And then there's another frame back there. You know, you can see on the other side the leaf springs. But wow, is that ever beefy. So, pretty cool. Back to work. All right, so I've done most of the tune-up on my New Yorker. I haven't done the spark plug wires yet, but I did all the plugs, the distributor cap, the rotor. The only thing that's left is the wires, which I've left because that doesn't look fun either. I'm gonna have to get it from the bottom, and it's cold today, so I just hooked it up with the existing wires, but they really need to be changed. I did change the coil wire. That one was very easy. And it was loose as well. I mean, these wires are just very, very old. I think these are original because they are definitely exact length to each spark plug wire. They're date coded 371. So some people said these orange ones aren't original, but they sure seem to be to me. They're marked Chrysler. They're date coded 371 right here. So they are definitively old. But I took off my Holley 4160 carburetor because I still had a bit of a bogginess. That wasn't hard to get off. It's basically, you take off these two springs here, take off a couple clips. There's 4 bolts. One of the easier carburetors to get off. Oh, by the way, there's all the 8 old AC spark plugs. And yes, some people are going to say you should use Champion in your Chrysler. I use AC Delco plugs in everything. I find them to be very reliable, but that is personal preference. And these worked great for many, many years. These plugs are at least 30 years old, maybe closer to 40 years old. That AC logo has not been used for a very, very long period of time. So here I actually have a rebuilt Holley 4160. These are not adjustable from the factory. You can't adjust the float level, which on Holleys usually you can adjust here on the side. But that's what it looks like. And here's the one that was on the New Yorker. I'm waiting for my rebuild kit, so I'm trying to take this apart so I can reassemble it, which is not generally a good idea. But the gasket looks okay, shall we say. And notice all of this sediment in here. So that is definitely a problem. Here are the two primary main jets that sit in here. They just thread in. I've taken them out and blown them out. This is the power piston, so that when you accelerate, it richens the mixture. So I'm going to clean all that sediment out. That is definitely causing a problem. If any of that gets sucked into these jets, then you can see how small these holes are and how big the sediment is. So that will definitely block off a jet, or it could cause a needle to have some issue. You can see the sediment in the bottom of this float bowl as well. So this car had when I got it, it had a new fuel tank on it, but before it had an old fuel tank. And I think what's happened here is some of the sediment from that old fuel tank, I never rebuilt this carburetor, has kind of clogged this up. There's the float. This actually sits, this is upside down, so it sits this way. You can see there. This metering block is also separate. This is a separate piece from the casting, but I may try to just leave that, clean this, and see if I'm going to be successful. Because each of these gaskets, I don't have my rebuild kit yet. So I had a few spare hours, and I thought, well, I'll just try to do it without a rebuild kit. And worst case scenario, I've got a rebuilt carburetor right there that I can put on. Or I can wait for my rebuild kit and do it the proper way. But I like doing things twice. So, and I've never taken apart a Holley 4160 before. It's the first time. But pretty easy carburetor, like I said, to get off. This was not hard to do at all. So this is the transfer tube that pushes the gas from the primary side. There's another float bowl back here for the secondaries. So Holleys are unique in that aspect. Two floats, two different chambers. The secondary, which feeds these back two Venturi, and the primary side, which feeds those two Venturi. So, and this here is the accelerator pump, which you can see. So it richens the mixture. And there's the needle. This carburetor wasn't flooding out. I just had some issues where it would intermittently cut out. And so I started with ignition components, which helped, but I still had some things cutting out. And you can see why. I mean, any of these little pieces of dirt that get into those jets, that's trouble. That's blocking fuel flow. So, going to clean this out, reassemble, try it. If that doesn't work, I can put on this rebuilt carburetor, or I can wait for my rebuild kit on this one. And another thing I noticed, just so you know, these idle screws, which was one on either side on these Holleys, they have a little cork gasket or a rubber gasket at the base of them that seals them. And this side was all ripped up. So that's not good. Make sure that when you're redoing these that you have a gasket on those. Otherwise, you're going to have vacuum leaks. So, other little tip. I'm learning as I go. Hopefully that was helpful. All right, just a couple tips when you put this back together. Make sure that you have an O-ring on the back of this transfer tube. And then also make sure your accelerator pump is lined up so that it activates when you step on the throttle. Sometimes this little lever flops upside down like it is here. And you have to flop this right side up to reinstall. So we'll try it out.